when it was a house. The people of Malangen were poor, but they lived, as they frequently and inaccurately reminded each other, in the richest country in the world, with a generous welfare system to boot. As such, their poverty was less about need than class, less about money than the facts that they were both northern and rural. Northern meant uncivilized, while southern Norwegians took pride in their restraint. They rarely made eye contact on the street, arrived precisely on time, and spoke a cosmopolitan dialect that resembled Danish. Northerners were loose and vulgar. They cursed, slurred their words, joked often about death and sex, and gauged time loosely. "I'll meet you Wednesday after 3 cups of coffee." Theirs was the Norway of witchcraft, storytelling, and incest, not minimalist furniture and the Nobel Peace Prize. Rural meant long memories. How much had changed really since 50 years ago, or even 100, when the same families had lived on the same farms? The men of Malangen had been sealers and whalers, coming home from months on the Arctic Ocean with heaps of furs, baby polar bears to sell in Europe, and as much slimy black seal meat as their families could eat. They lined their skis with sealskin. They twined rope of walrus hide. They greased their saws with fish oil. They made liquor of birch sap, and on the coldest winters they froze away the water to strengthen it. Women came to the peninsula to help with the haying, fell in love, married, and ran the farms when their husbands drowned at sea. Then came electricity. Then came roads. Then came oil. Somewhere to the south, Bridget Bardot raised a fuss, and the seal hunting industry collapsed, diminished to a single dark-gummed teenager selling flippers with his grandpa on a city dock. Men found other work, on oil rigs, in a factory that made styrofoam boxes for exporting salmon, as cruise ship guides in the same waters where they had once hunted. The winters grew warmer, the summers longer. Forests spread over fields and up the mountains like a rising tide. Everyone knew that he, the rich one, was feeling wounded that year. He had owned a meat store in Storsteinnes, which was an hour's drive away and a big enough town to have a grocery store, a government liquor store, and a bank. He made his brother the manager. But another employee stole money from the register for months until finally the store went bankrupt. Ottold couldn't believe that a person would be oblivious for that long about his own shop, that he wouldn't notice. Not that Ottold was complaining. He had his eye on the chest freezer that he, the rich one, would be getting rid of. "I understand why you want it," he, the rich one, said. "It's you a nicer freezer than you've ever had." Ottold hummed. It wasn't in his practice to contradict customers. "It was a nicer shop than this, too," said he, the rich one, turning to me. 700 square meters. He looked sad. But it didn't have a pretty girl like you in it. "The freezer," said Ottold. He, the rich one, shook his head. "You can't afford it." "No," agreed Runa. "He can't afford it." Ottold picked up his newspaper. Then he seemed to change his mind. "You must help yourself to your purchases," he said abruptly. "I have to show Pia her museum. If you want to see her, then you must shop more often at your local near store." He stood and started limping toward the door. He had a bad knee from jumping out of trucks, but at the moment his limp seemed exaggerated. "Anyway," called he, the rich one, "the freezer wouldn't fit through your door frame." "Yes, it would." "No, it wouldn't." "We'll see about that," said Ottold, closing the door behind him. Outside, the clouds hung low so that only the bases of the mountains were visible. The air was full of moisture. Though it wasn't raining, the road glistened. I followed Ottold past the diesel pump, the sheep were gone, and around the barn to a small courtyard with a flagpole. 2 lambs trotted after us, bawling. Ottold had discovered their mother dead the week before, the lambs curled atop her body. The sight hurt his heart. Now he fed them warm milk, 5 times a day. A task, he said, that would soon be mine, if I wanted it. Toward the water, white and tall, was the old house, the heart of Morton Halls, where Ottold had been born and intended to die. It rose as high as the flagpole, its walls worn but freshly painted. But if the old house looked grand in its age, the old store looked simply shabby. Its walls were covered with chipped white paint.